Fedheads. You're tuning into another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is Sharing Our Pairings, episode 112, Mombacho Tierra Volcan. I'm your host, John, the cigar surgeon. Sharing Our Pairings is broadcast live and heard around the world and picked up on the Armed Forces Radio Network. You can tune in at cigarfederation.com, youtube.com, and now streaming on Facebook Live. We look forward to your questions, comments, and emojis. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Tripp.
Hey, I'm in a good mood this week. I'm kind of in vacation mode already because I'm going camping tomorrow afternoon, and then coming home on Sunday, and then flying out to the IPCPR on Monday.
Copy that. I don't think. I think there's a possibility that my microphone didn't work at all for that intro.
I mean, it's always a possibility.
I mean, who knows what happens. So just for our live audience tuning in on Facebook Live, this is Sharing Our Pairings, episode 112, Mombacho Tierra Volcan. We've had a number of technology failures, which I've managed to nip most of them in the bud before the show started, but I think the microphone kicked out just as we started because that's just how Facebook rolls. But you're not here to listen to me complain about technology. Really, you're here, first of all, for pairings, but really you're here for our very special guest tonight, Rob Rasmussen from Mombacho!
Mombacho! What's up, fellas?
What's up, Robby?
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on again, brother.
It's my anniversary.
Mm-hmm. Anniversary of you leaving and coming back.
Yeah. 3 years, man. We did this show together for 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Crazy. It's a lot of liver damage. I mean, responsible drinking.
Yes. And no, it was a lot of fun, man. I'm just happy to be back on. Great times.
It's nice to have you on. We've had a couple special guests lately. We had Barry's Time from the Cigar Authority, which was a lot of fun. And it's always fun having a guest because we Trippy and I kind of get in a routine of doing things. So it's kind of nice to get a guest on and just kind of throw a wrench right into the mix.
There you go. Awesome.
What's your official title? I always forget your official. It's like national brand manager.
Just brand manager. It's simple.
Manager. Yeah, I like adding national, like American, international,
it
United
would be international,
States,
man.
North American brand manager.
We're taking over the world.
Mm-hmm. So we are, of course,
cigar shop at a time. Absolutely,
one cigar shop at a time. Yeah, that's how you win, right? One cigar, putting on a shoe or winning shops. And of course, we were smoking one of your company's delightful cigars tonight. And I think we're all smoking different Vitolas.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
Trippy, what are you smoking?
I'm smoking the Classico. I should have looked up the exact size of this, but I don't recall right now. Rob might know.
That's a 6.5 by 50.
It's a good size. It's kind of a Toro Extra. And I didn't realize until I went to take pictures of this today that it actually has a closed foot, and it's the only one in the line, right?
It's the only cigar that we make, I believe, that has a closed foot. None of the Momachos do. And that's
when Trippy mentioned that to me, I was like, I didn't know you guys had a... What's the story behind that?
You're going to have to ask the guy who made them, man.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. We'll ask Claudio next week.
That's a good question for next Monday night.
Why you got to change things up, make things crazy? I think I'm smoking the Grande, which is the 6.5 by 54. Is that right? 6.25 by 54.
Yep. Indeed, 6.25 by 54. That's, in my opinion, that's the most mild cigar that we make. And just in general, that's the most mild. I'm smoking the Fino, the 6 by 44, and it's got the old packaging on it, which I'm actually kind of curious.
I almost went for that size.
Nate.
Yeah, I'll check the band. I think I gave you guys one of these. And, oh, there you go. Wow. March of 2015.
Nice.
I
love the Fino. That is absolutely my favorite Vitola and favorite performance. I don't know why I'm smoking the Grande. I think it's just because I went into one of our shops, who all or most of them carry Mombacho here in Canada, and picked one up, and I was like, yeah. There you go.
Give you a virtual hug.
Exactly.
Thank you for selling our product. That's awesome.
Sometimes I gotta preach the word to our stores, because sometimes some of the stores aren't really up on what the current hot boutique white product is, and I gotta share the love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with especially with this particular blend, just going back to the sizes, they all perform a little bit differently. The Cordo is, I guess, kind of a short Robusto 4 by 50. That one was rated by Cigar Aficionado in '92, I believe. The Fino, John, you rated the Fino like 106 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's 113 or something like that.
Something like that. But that's the spiciest,
Yeah.
in my opinion, of that line.
Most full-bodied.
And the Classico is just solid medium. It's not too spicy. It's real smooth. I feel like the Corto's got a little bit more of a kick to it, and that Grande is just it's almost a medium minus.
Yeah,
for me, super smooth, super easy to smoke. I like that one with coffee myself.
Yeah, I could see that with an espresso or just a straight black coffee. I mean, this is I think the Grande is probably a great way to introduce somebody to the Mombacho line and then kind of work them up, go Classico and then get into the powerhouses. I know that, like I said, you read the review, from the very moment I had the Fino, I was like, yeah, this portfolio is my jam. And it is nice that the different sizes perform differently, because if you feel like something that has that profile but is stronger or less strong, you can dial it in just by choosing a Vitola, which is nice.
Yeah, it's just a slightly different interpretation of the same overall blend.
That's exactly what I like about when companies rather than having exactly the same blend throughout the entire line, they have various little tiny tweaks, and it gives each one its own character. So you're not like, well, I'm going to buy the Robusto because that one's $1 cheaper than the Toro. It's
good point.
I'm going to buy the Toro because I like the flavor of that one for this particular occasion, and I'm going to buy some Cortos because they got that spice.
The Cortos are the jam.
Little spice bombs, yeah.
And those old ones, oh man.
Oh, they're magic, right?
Yeah.
Those are magic.
Oh man, I was on the road. One of our brokers, Glenn Seegers in the southeast. When was that? A month ago?
Yeah.
Month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. And we had a bundle of the Cortos that had the old bands on them. And
nice.
We were sampling them, but we were kind of smoking them ourselves. It's a lot of time in the car, so we were smoking a few of them. And we had a couple. We just like halfway through, like, looking at each other. Man, these things, they're like magic. And that's from that on, they were the magic Cortos. And if you come across a Corto that's got the old band like this,
grab that.
Yeah, grab it. Because there's something special about that blend. Once it hits about 3 years, whew, so damn good. I feel like we're even doing a show. I feel like we're just hanging out.
We're just hanging out. We're just.
That's kind of our style of doing a show.
No, I know, but I gotta keep it in mind, like what, like other people actually hear what I'm saying, and what am I saying? And I haven't had that much to drink yet, so we're still good.
Keyword yet.
Yet.
Because that's what the show is all about, right? That the show is all about pairing, and we've got some pairings tonight, and we'll kind of we'll lead it off before we get to our first break here. In the I couldn't do a Pilsner. I'm sorry, Maestro, but I just wasn't feeling the Pilsner today. But I went with something Pilsner-esque within the Venn diagram of Pilsner. And some of you out there might make fun of me, but I'm going with the Village Squeeze. Village is a brewery that's local to Calgary. The brewmaster is Larry Kerwin, located in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, home of the Calgary Stampede, which kicks off tomorrow. It is the largest outdoor show on Earth. And it's fantastic. Wow. I will not be here for it because I'm going to the IPCPR. They started brewing in December of 2011. It comes in at a nice sessionable 4.8% ABV and just a very minor 12 IBUs. It's a Munich Berry Helles style. What makes it different is they add some lemon zest and some fresh raspberries.
I do like raspberries.
I could see a Helles lager going really well with this.
Yeah. And that's like I looked at my inventory. I'm like, what can I do that kind of works the mold a little bit but still kind of keeps it within the profile of what I'd pair with a Tierra Volcan. And I saw this beer and I was like, Daddy's got to go. Trippy, what you got first?
So I went with something that is in the complete opposite direction, but it's also a beer, and it's something on the opposite end of the spectrum that I think is going to pair wonderfully with the Tierra Volcan, which is Fort George 3-Way IPA. So for those who don't know, first I'll talk about Fort George. They're in Astoria, Oregon. They only distribute, I believe, they may have opened it up a little bit more, but I think they only distribute to Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. You may see some down in California. I'm not sure.
I never have.
Okay, so then I think they're still just distributing in the Pacific Northwest. And they started in 2007 with an 8.5 barrel system that they actually trucked. They put it in a truck and drove it from Virginia Beach, Virginia, to Astoria, Oregon, which is on the coast. So they drove it literally from coast to coast. And then a couple years ago, they went to California, and I don't remember exactly where they got it, but they got a 30-barrel system that they salvaged from somewhere else. And three-way is kind of special for them. So it's where it's released at the beginning of every summer since 2013, and it's a collaboration between two other breweries and themselves. It's always an IPA, but the style changes drastically. And this year they did a Vermont IPA, which is kind of that sweeter, juicier kind of flavors. And this one is in collaboration with two other kind of localish breweries, which are Great Notion out of Portland, where they don't really bottle much of anything. Pretty much everything is just growlers and crowlers, because they only put it in kegs. And the other brewery is Reuben's Brews out of Seattle, who has been kind of blown up lately. And one of the interesting things is they always seem to pick the breweries that are about to explode and get really popular in this area. So, and the reason I talked about it before showing it is because this is like,
it looks
like
juice.
Tang,
yeah,
or maybe like Sunny D.
Yeah. Mimosa.
It's like, yeah, it's bright orange and as hazy as it can be. Like it's one solid color. There's no little chunks floating around or anything. Rob, what are you drinking first?
Oh, I'm up. You're bringing some of those to IPCPR, yes?
I could, yeah.
I
could do that.
I'd love to try it.
He knows the guy.
I went with kind of a classic. Well, a classic, at least in my neck of the woods. The Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing. And Kona Brewing, obviously, is in Hawaii. It's a golden ale, light, balanced, and easygoing, just like me. It's 21 IBUs. Oh, I'm getting something. Sorry about the noises in the background. 21 IBUs, 4.4 ABV. So this is super sessionable. Just pale malts with a little bit of caramel malt and Galaxy and Citra hops, which is probably why I like it, because I've learned that Galaxy and Citra hops are my two favorite hops. Kona Brewing, they've been around since 1995.
Wow.
So they've been around for a little while. And I tried to figure, they're in Hawaii, but I don't know which island they're on. Oh, they're on the Big Island. Well, at least that's what it says here. Anyway, so they've been around for a while, and it's as you can see, I've been working on it a little bit. But yeah, I wanted to go with something light and crisp, but like John, like you were saying, I just didn't want to go with a Pilsner because I don't have any. If I've been on kind of a German kick because I'm prepping for a trip to Germany later this year, and I had some Spaten, but that's all gone. Otherwise, I would have had one of those. But so far, this pairing is exactly what I wanted it to be. But we'll talk later.
Copy that. So I'll take this moment before we start talking and waxing poetic about our flavor profiles here. I'll just get into our first break here. Remind the audience who missed it at the beginning, you are tuned in sharing our pairings episode 112, Mombacho Tierra Volcan. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, joined by my co-host, Trippy Trent. We are joined by our special guest, Robbie Rasmussen, brand manager from Mombacho Cigars. Please stay tuned for a word from one of our sponsors. Brought to you by Gurkha Cigars. Gurkha Cigars, makers of the world's finest cigars. Try the 93 rated Heritage, featuring Rosado, Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Dominican, Pennsylvania, and Nicaraguan fillers. Blended by Gurkha's blending team at American Caribbean Cigars, it is hand-rolled Nicaraguan, available in 35-count boxes. Talk to your local B&M about the Heritage today, or talk to them about other fine Gurkha cigars. Whatever your taste preferences, Gurkha has a cigar that's right for you. All right, and we're back. We're talking Mombacho Tierra Volcan and beers for our first pairing. And this Helles Lager, this squeeze, is kind of exactly what I think about when I think about sitting out on a hot day. And it is a hot day today. I mean, we're sitting in the high 80s, which is pretty toasty, no clouds in the sky, and need a refreshing beer. And as you said, Robbie, the Grande is kind of on the lighter side, a little bit more subdued. So I find the Helles is doing a great job of kind of, first of all, the lemon zest refreshes my palate at the end of a draw. But you know that sourness that I just love out of the Mombacho? It really draws that out of the Grande. Like normally when you take a draw of the Grande, it's quite subtle, but when you have a little of this squeeze and then have a draw, you get this nice sort of lingering sourness, which I actually found quite refreshing. And the strength profile of the beverage and the strength profile of the cigar are absolutely bang on. So far, so good. Trippy, how's that first pairing dealing you up?
So you talk about strength profile. I think the strength of the beer is a little more than the cigar, but it does bring out, it's got so much like sweet citrus and fruity notes. There's like peach, pineapple. I taste lemon, orange peel, grapefruit. It's got like so much fruity flavors and so much sweetness. It really is bringing out a little bit of the sourness, but it brings out kind of the baking spice way more than anything else. It's really a nice pairing. Rob, how about you?
So yeah, the Big Wave, it's a golden ale, and I had a few of these. Yesterday I had some family over for the holiday, and my wife bought one of the little sampler packs of the Kona Brewing, and I was drinking my way through it. There's 4 different beers in there, and all their beers are really good. They're not like extra special where you feel like, oh God, I have to have a bunch of those. But everything that they make is solid, which going across the board to be able to make everything from a golden ale up to, their coconut porter, they're all pretty damn good. So this seemed like a natural pairing for me. It's crisp, it's light, it's got some fruity notes to it. It's a little bit malty, but not over the top. I just get a lot of that citrus. I get a lot of orange peel, kind of like orange zest more so than orange peel. And it's really crisp. It's bright. And it does, John, like that brings out that tiny little sour note. It's more of the way that your tongue reacts to it than a flavor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more of a feeling than a flavor.
Yeah, exactly. Feeling than a flavor. That's a much better way to put it. You are good with the words, Tripp.
Not really, but
it's not his first rodeo, though.
Yeah, it's more of a feeling than a flavor, and it just generates just a little bit, like your mouth waters just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I prefer that significantly more than a cigar that dries my mouth out, which I feel like I need to drink a lot of water or whatever. This pairing is exactly what I wanted. It's very, very simple. It's highlighting some of the sweet notes from the cigar. It does come a little bit more sweet. A little bit of that spice is in there as well. It's not too spicy. It's not super spicy cigar to begin with, but you do get a little bit of that spice. And with this, it becomes more of almost like a baking style spice as opposed to a pepper spice. Very, very enjoyable. Perfect for a day like this. It's about 85 degrees. Perfect.
Boom. I am. I don't want to set this pairing down. I mean, this is.
Yeah. Do we have to? How much time do we have before we have to move?
Whatever.
We
can do whatever we want. We started an hour early to accommodate. What peaches? No, not peaches.
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 I'm very confused.
I forget the nickname we had for
Biscuits.
Logan. Biscuits. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Biscuits.
Started an hour earlier to accommodate biscuits, and then he tried to change the time on me. I'm like, oh, come on. We got a scheduled guest. It's not like I can just pick up and drink and smoke at a different time. We got a tight schedule.
It's just Rob.
No, it's very important. You're a guest now. You're not just.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You need to start demanding things. I demand that start at this time.
Yeah, you
Only
need to have
green
a rider
Skittles.
next time.
That's right. It's all about that rider.
You
must smoke a Mombacho, but the band must always be facing the camera with every puff.
That sounds like something Rob would do.
Is that a real thing? Like, do people really do that?
Riders? Oh, yeah, man. Have you not heard about
for
this?
show, but for musicians do it a lot.
Oh, just in general. Okay. So
yeah, crazy riders.
Yeah.
We should probably move on to our next one. I mean, honestly, the way this first pairing is performing, I would be perfectly happy crushing a couple squeezes and finishing off this Grande and maybe letting a Corto to chase it, and I think I'd be in my happy place. Really.
Why did you say that people would make fun of you for having the squeeze?
Well, because there's this, I think there's this this negative connotation with fruity, quote unquote, fruit added beers, because I think there is a lot of beers out there where they add too much fruit and it overpowers the beers. In this case, the lemon zest and the raspberries are really an accent note. They're not a primary note. And if you add fruit as an accent note, that's perfectly fine. If you're not adding as an accent note, dog, you're making a lambic, and you should make a lambic. Don't
You
make a, you know.
Anybody who thinks that way needs to try grapefruit sculpin, and then they'll change their mind.
Try grapefruit.
Okay.
Go back in time and try grapefruit sculpin like 3
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a few grapefruit style beers that I was that I've tried before. Grapefruit would not be the way to go for this cigar, by the way.
Grapefruit only
To our
really
audience.
goes with hops.
Yeah. But I mean, on a hot day, shockingly refreshing, and I expected the grapefruit just to be nasty. You know, like in my mind, combining grapefruit and beer is just a bad combination, but it is like fantastic.
It can go really wrong though.
Mhm.
Fruit in beers can go really wrong. Before we go on to our next pairing, just want to tell everybody the blend. We didn't touch on the blend in
Didn't
Tierra
touch on it
Volcan.
at
I know
all.
we talked about it before. Nicaraguan Puro with a Habano Jalapa Valley wrapper. I'm reading this straight from our website, by the way. It's got a Criollo from Condega binder and fillers from Condega and Jalapa. So Nicaraguan Puros, all Mombacho blends are Nicaraguan Puros. Liga Maestra is a Nikka Puro as well, meaning all the tobaccos come from Nicaragua. And you can now move on with the rest of the show.
Roger that, yeah. So can I just say on this Grande, it is elegant enough that I can retrohale with every draw if I wanted to. There's no bite to that smoke. There's a velvety, creamy. It's like if I was smoking vanilla ice cream, that kind of velvety texture. I'm getting that out of the retrohale. It's delightful. It's nice. But I'm going to move on to my next pairing. It's an old
Guess I will
favorite.
too.
What's that?
Said I guess I will too.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, me too.
guys. Moving on to the next pairing. This is an oldie but a goodie. For those who've tuned into our Japanese whiskey shows, they might recognize this. The Miyagikyo 15 by Nikka Whiskey. You can see that bottle slowly getting depreciated. Nikka Whiskey, of course, famously founded by Masataka Takatsuro, who is the first Japanese distiller of Scotch-style whiskey in Japan in 1924. Nikka Whiskey was named its current name, Nikka Whiskey, in 1952. They own quite a few number of distilleries. They own Yoichi, which is located in the northern end of Japan, Miyagikyo, which is located in central Japan, Moji, which is southern Japan, but they also own some other bottling plants and breweries. They own Sapporo, Hirosaki, which does cider, brandy, apple wine, Tojiki, which is coffee grain whiskey, and also is a primary plant for long-term storage and aging. And then Nishiniya, which is just a bottling plant, and Kashiwa, which is also a bottling plant. So they're a very, very large whiskey distiller. And, we've talked about Miyagikyo, or we've talked about Miyagikyo. We've also talked about Nikka in the past, because there's really two big players in Japanese whiskey. This is one of them, and this is fantastic. I'll hold this bottle up again. So like most Japanese whiskeys, pardon me, I was going to say like most Japanese whiskeys, it's at 43, but we have found the one, it's at 45. 45%. Ooh, special.
Cask.
Yeah, not really.
No.
Almost. No.
By
almost.
Japanese standards, maybe.
Yeah, by Japanese standards, maybe. So they say this soft and luxuriantly fragrant single malt is distilled and matured at Miyagikyo, which is located in Sendai province. They say that the natural environment of the area, along with the use of steam heat distillation, results in a whiskey with a lot of different character that is very different from the Yoichi distillery. They say it's got a mature nose with a lot of the cask represented in the whiskey, with some cacao or maybe cacao nuts that have been ground. Soft, fragrant, and a smooth tang. So, hold that up for our audience. But, we've talked about it in the past that you really can't judge a whiskey necessarily by the color. In this case, you can maybe see the legs on that bad boy. It is delicious. And I'm going to take some noses and some sippies. Trippy, why don't you introduce your second beverage of the night?
Mine is also actually a Japanese whiskey. I didn't even think about that until
Say
just
what?
now. And this is also kind of an oldie but a goodie. I've had this on, I think, 3 shows before, maybe 2. It's Eigashima Akashi. So as I've talked about before, but I'll just go over it quickly again, they were the first licensed whiskey producer in Japan. Even though they're not the oldest whiskey distillery, because they also made sake previously, and they mainly made sake for a very long time. And they say they still use sake techniques, though they don't say what techniques those are in creating the spirit for this whiskey. It's distilled from 70% corn, 30% lightly peated barley, which is imported from Scotland, aged in American oak sochu casks. So previously they were used to age sochu, which is kind of it's like a distilled version of sake, where sake is brewed rather than distilled. Then they age it in ex-bourbon barrels for an undisclosed amount of time. Then they finish it in sherry casks for 2 years. I'm going to take a couple sips of this delicious thing. Oh, and also this is one of the American-style bottlings because it is 40% ABV, which is kind of the typical American ABV.
That sounds delightful.
It's a very good whiskey.
You bringing some of that to IPCPR too?
I might.
Anything can happen.
Bring extra bags, fellas. You know where I'm staying. So I'm going with, and I think this is probably an oldie but goodie as well. And I'm sure that I featured this during the 2.5 years that John and I were co-hosting the show.
Back during your tenure.
Yeah, it's Green Spot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Single pot still Irish whiskey, and is bottled by Mitchell and Son. And it says here that it's from, I couldn't find their website, so I'm going off of masterofmalt.com. And it says it's Spot Whiskey Distillery, and it is bottled by Mitchell and Son. It's a single pot still whiskey. John, you could talk about that if you want to, because you know more about that stuff than I do.
It's all about that copper pot.
It is a Chester copper pot?
No, just a big thing of copper that sits on the floor.
Yes, we talked about Astoria too. No Goonies fans.
No Goonies.
Chester copper pot was the explorer in Goonies that they found his dead body.
Yeah. I didn't go there because I know we'd be off topic for the next 20 minutes. So, yeah.
Oh, so you're trying?
I could go on and on about Goonies.
Yeah, I'm taking this off. 40% ABV. The nose on this hints of peppermint, malt, sweet barley, sugary porridge. I did not get sugary porridge when I nosed it. Creamy vanilla, papaya, and citrus. You do kind of get those. My nose isn't delicate enough to pick out papaya, but I just go with kind of like a sweet, like a heavier sweet fruit in there. And it's got a spicy and soft palate, gentle bourbon oak, green woods, menthol, and potpourri. Come on, that just seems like, you say it's potpourri, that's just kind of giving in, right? Because
they're just making stuff up now.
Just making it up at that point. The finish is creamy and vanilla. This is fantastic. If you haven't had Green Spot, I tried to buy it when I was on my way back from Ireland a couple of years ago, and we were switching planes or something, so they wouldn't let us buy it at the duty free. And then I tried to find it in the States, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Now they have it at Costco. So if you run across a bottle of it, I think at Costco was like $45. Totally worth it.
Yeah,
it's almost too easy to drink, though.
I know I've seen it on the shelf around here. I'm lucky that I don't know why in Portland people don't buy like rare whiskeys that much. So like people go crazy for my next selection here, which just sits on the shelf. The people go crazy for that one of my favorites, Old Weller Antique. Yeah. Like I've seen people sell bottles of that for like $100, and I can go any day of the week and buy it
for like $26.
Yeah.
I think we found a side job for you.
No kidding.
Side gig. So the nose on this is fantastic. It's really soft, fruity, vanilla. It almost smells like like when I was a kid, they used to have a place called Orange Julius, which I know Treehouse makes Orange Julius.
Still got them up here in Canada.
Beer, but it's still
exists here too.
It's like, okay, so it's bigger than I thought. It's like a milkshake almost, or like a smoothie, but it was with vanilla ice cream and orange. So you kind of like an orange creamsicle. That's what this smells like. And I'm ready to see what the pairing is, but I let my cigar go out, so I'm going to light it up again.
Yeah, it's funny you went with Irish whiskey because I'd actually contemplated going with Irish whiskey. I think a lot of the Mombacho core line pairs nicely with an Irish whiskey because Irish whiskey tends to be a little bit more on the delicate side than Scotch. So you've got maybe a larger range of whiskeys within the Irish portfolio you can pair with, and I think it doesn't run the cigar over. I'll talk about my nosing notes here and then get into our second break. But this is tropical fruit in a glass, and we'll talk about the flavors after because I'll probably talk for 5 minutes. But I want to remind our audience you are tuned in to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 112, Mombacho Tierra Volcan. Thanks to all our podcast listeners out there. Our live listeners who are tuning in at Facebook, we'll get to you in just a moment, I promise. I'm joined, as always, by Trippy Trent. We have our special guest, Rob Rasmussen, who is the brand manager for Mombacho Cigars. Please stay tuned for more from one of our sponsors. This show is sponsored by Cigar Oasis. Don't spend all your time worrying about your cigar wrappers cracking, splitting, or falling apart from humidity fluctuation issues. Set it and forget it by choosing Cigar Oasis, a professional solution which provides equal distribution of humidity with precise electronic controls. Monitor your cigars through the internet using the Smart Humidor Wi-Fi attachment. Why don't you spend all your time enjoying your cigars and relaxing, and let Cigar Oasis protect your cigars? Cigar Oasis has solutions for any humidor. Make sure you set it and forget it today. And we're back talking Mombacho, Tierra Volcan, and pairings. Thanks very much for all of our live listeners. We will get to your questions in just a moment, but first we need to wax a little poetic. So this Miyagikyo is certainly a little bit more when it comes to Japanese whiskey. You know, Japanese whiskeys can be really delicate. This has that delicate Japanese whiskey up front, but it finishes quite intense. Fortunately for me, the intensity is tropical fruits. So you get mango, you get a little bit of banana, you get a lot of vanilla, you get, maybe some passion fruit in there. And it's not dominating the cigar. In fact, much like the beer was, I think those fruity notes are really accenting the cigar. So I think for me, it's bringing out a lot of sweetness out of the cigar. I'm not getting that tang that I was getting with the beer, which is unfortunate because I do enjoy that out of the profile. But it's serving very nicely to accent the cigar just in different ways. Trippy, how's that pairing going for you?
Not as well as I'd hoped.
Oh.
I think the sweetness of the sherry and the bourbon aging actually kind of overrides the sweetness of the cigar a little bit. So I still get the sourness, the slight amount of bitterness that's in there, and a little bit of the spice, but I don't get as much spice as I was with the beer. And I get almost no sweetness from the cigar now, which is unfortunate because it's a cigar that's blended to be balanced, and so it's supposed to have kind of equal parts of all of those flavors. And this just kind of kills the sweetness.
Robby, what about you?
Throws it off kilter. When pairing goes wrong.
Yep,
it happens.
It does happen. This, I'm actually kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. The pairing's okay, but it's the cigar that's running over the flavors that I normally get out of this whiskey.
Wow.
And we talked about Irish whiskey. It is on the more delicate side. So I thought that would be a good pairing based on the fact I didn't want it to overrun the cigar, right? So I'm getting more spice out of the cigar. So it's, in a way, it's enhancing my cigar experience, but it's a nice whiskey that's almost being wasted, if that makes sense. Yeah. Where it is enhancing the cigar. I'm getting more spice out. I think I'm just getting more flavor overall out of the cigar, but the whiskey kind of just goes by the wayside. I mean, it's serving its purpose. It tastes great and it gives you a nice little feeling inside. But this is one of my favorites that's always in our bar, so I'm familiar with it, and the flavor profile, and to taste the way that the pairing changes the whiskey. It bums me out a little bit. Now, would I send it back if I was at a restaurant? No, it's still pretty good, but it's putting the cigar on stilts, and it puts the whiskey in the background for sure.
I mean, that's tough, right? I mean, you probably don't want a situation where your cigar is getting run over by the spirit, kind of like Trippy's is. But at the same time, as much as you want the cigar to be highlighted, the whole purpose of drinking a spirit is so you can still kind of taste it. So, that's unfortunate. But as we say, it happens. Sometimes.
Yeah, that's kind of where the ideal pairing is where they both play off of each other and neither overruns the other.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's definitely not, it's not pairing it with a ginger ale. That's
we know how that goes.
One thing I will say, I was at an undisclosed cigar shop a couple weeks ago, and there was a young guy came in. He bought a cigar, and he was sitting in the lounge. It was in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, so it was pretty quiet in there. And he was the only guy in there that I saw. There might have been people upstairs, and they have a self-serve beverage,
sure,
thing, which is basically just a fridge, and you can go in and you put your dollar in the bucket on top, and it's very. It's very open the way that they do it. I like the way that they handle things at that particular shop. And he went in and bought a ginger ale, and I watched him buy it. And he's walking away, and I'm thinking, "Oh no, don't do it!" But no, he was happy as a clam, man. He was having a great time.
I mean, I've actually had cigars that paired well with ginger ale before.
I feel like it should. I almost did a cocktail today. I was gonna do a dark and stormy because it's one of my favorite cocktails, and I feel like the pairing might be kind of good. And it's like, oh, it's ginger beer, like it's even stronger ginger flavor. I don't know.
It's worth revisiting at the IPCPR, which that may happen. Who knows? Spontaneous pairing. It's been known to occur. But I think what probably would work in a cocktail is that the ginger portion, well, in a dark and stormy maybe, but the ginger portion is going to be a little subdued versus a ginger ale where the ginger portion is really front and center. And I think that's tough, man. That's tough to match that kind of strength and flavor.
And just the fact that they had a small selection. It was very specific, the sodas that they put in there. Because they're probably buying them at Costco. And
it was intentional.
So it was like there's a shelf of Coke, there's Diet Coke, and Dr. Pepper was in there, and a root beer, and then a whole shelf of ginger ale. So maybe they know something that I don't. I just did it wrong. But it was really wrong, so I haven't revisited it yet.
Who knows? I mean, we do this professionally, so I like to think we're right most of the time. Trippy, how are we doing for audience questions, comments, feedback?
We got a lot of comments.
Uh-huh.
So we've got a couple people who are doing their own little pairing. Bo, he commented last week, and like I said, I can't even pronounce his name. Zarifchik. I mean, that's as close as I can come to pronouncing it. But he is drinking Lawson's Finest Liquid Sip of Sunshine, which I believe is from your area, right, Rob? I think I had that when I was down there.
They're in Vermont.
Okay.
Delightful.
They're in Vermont. And
okay, so they're very similar to this right here.
Beer. That's a fantastic beer.
Oh, maybe that was a beer that Matt Ross sent me.
It's in a can. It's in the yellow can.
Yeah. I'm remembering it now.
That's a great beer, Bo. Very good choice. I.L.
McLaughlin is drinking some Aberlour Abenda, batch 28 with a 77 Añejo Shark.
Batch 28.
That sounds like good.
He's not messing around.
No, batch 28 is very heavily sherried, so good choice on the Añejo because you'd need a pretty bold cigar to stand up to that much sherry. That sounds delightful, actually.
And we've also got a couple comments on that hat that you're wearing, Rob.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. That's so fancy.
There may or may not be some available very soon.
What if somebody were to bring you some beer?
Get your weasel on. Get your weasel on.
Yeah, absolutely. Bribes are taken. No, we've kind of expanded our merchandise game a little bit in the past few weeks. I'm actually gonna. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, that fancy army green.
I like that.
T-shirt.
I like that army green.
So you're going to see more and more of this stuff. We'll have some hats that we're going to have at IPCPR, and then we'll have some stuff available on our website, mombachocigars.com. We'll have a store up there where you can buy hats and cutters and lighters, stuff like that. There's always going to be some stuff that is specific for events, and we want to keep that a little bit more special. You come to an event and, you get to meet Claudio, hang out, and you buy a box of cigars or something and you get a hat, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there will be some event specific stuff, but you will see a lot of it on mombachocigars.com.
And then lastly, we actually, while we were talking, we just got a new comment from Steve Saka. He's very impressed with our technology that we can all stream on Facebook together.
That's how we roll, Steve. It's a very professional outfit here at Cigar Federation. I'd like to say we might be some of the most technical, competent broadcasters out there. I mean, sometimes maybe we don't bring the oomph, the justice, the flash, but
panache.
The panache. There we go.
Gosh, that's a good word.
Well, thanks for tuning in, Steve.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know Steve watched our show. That's fantastic. I love talking to Steve. I could talk tobacco with Steve for days, really.
Yeah, he knows a little bit about the tobacco.
Knows one or two things. The nice thing about you working for Mombacho, Rob, is that I know I can get my hands on a schmedium. Versus, some of the other manufacturers out there, and they're like, medium? What do you like? Is it for your fiance? Is it for your girlfriend? It's like, no, it's for me. I like to keep it tight. Don't make fun. I'm a small guy.
Show off the boiler a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Boiler. Yeah, no, we focus on the mediums. No, they're always I wear medium.
Yeah, I know.
There's always going to be medium.
That's what I'm saying. I love that you work for the company because I know there's going to be at least one medium. And if I show up, it's like how many extra larges do you have? Well, like 25. How many mediums do you have? Like 2, 1 and a half. Rob's wearing one.
You can have Rob's.
Yeah. Will he sign it though? I need that Rob Rasmussen's signature just so it.
I'll sweat in it for you. How about that?
It's not really my style.
No,
not really my thing.
That's not added value.
It's not floating my boat. It's not filling my sails, if you know what I mean. So this second pairing is really interesting. I feel like Japanese whiskey is, if you're gonna go the whiskey route, because the risk with Scotch whiskey, I think, is some of the Scotch whiskeys might be a little too bold, at least for the Grande. But I feel like Japanese whiskey, for the most part, is a pretty safe space. Like I could see some of the Nikka whiskey blacks and whites being pretty good. Yamazaki would be all right, although
I
it's
was
a little bit
thinking Yamazaki
spicy.
would pretty well, but not great. It might be a little too sweet.
Hakushu would be interesting, or Hibiki, get a little bit of that green apple in there. Those would all be kind of interesting. And, because they're subdued, they're nuanced, it kind of matches the profile of Maestro when he blends. Like it's, kind of seems like the same profile to me.
Yeah, I think I almost went with Japanese whiskey, and I was looking at my my bar, and the only bottle I have is a bottle of Hibiki 12, which I think I featured on the show probably 7 or 8 times. And I actually bought that at Costco back when it was available.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't find that anywhere, at least not around me. And when you do find it, it's going for like $150 for a bottle of 12, which is crazy. But they replaced it with the Harmony, right? That's kind of the one that replaced.
Yeah,
that.
It's like a blended malt or whatever.
Yeah. And that's a fantastic Japanese whiskey. I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to go with the green spot, but I think you're kind of on point with some of the Japanese stuff with that flavor profile. It's not going to be overly peated. It's not going to be. Some of them do get more on the sweet side, so that's true. Yeah, I would watch out for that.
Yeah,
going too sweet, but I think you're right in the wheelhouse there.
Got to try some of that Ichiro. You know what I'm saying? Little Chichibu.
Oh,
little Chichibu. You know what I'm saying?
That type of cigar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you get all what you want. Buddy.
I know a guy. I mean, I don't know a guy. I don't have a guy on speed dial like some people, but I know a guy. So I'm going to hop right into our third segment here before we get into our last pairing. And I want to remind our audience you are tuned into Sharing Our Pairings, episode 112. Mombacho Tierra Volcan. Thanks very much for all of our live listeners, and Steve Saka. Thanks for tuning into our show. We appreciate it, brother.
Steve says, "Nice job. See you next week." He's got to go.
We'll definitely see him next week. Yeah, we're gonna see if he's got a comfortable couch and sit there and rest our barking dogs. We are broadcast live around the world, heard on the Armed Forces Radio Network. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, joined by my co-host, Trippy Trent. Please stay tuned for a word from one of our sponsors. Show brought to you by Drew Estate. Until June 30th, if you're a Drew Diplomat member, you attend a rewards program event and make a promotional purchase, you will receive a Liga Privada Velvet Rat. You'll also be entered to win a Drew Diplomat pewter ashtray, mega standing ashtray, or the Swag Closet Humidor, dubbed the Divorcinator. All these products were built and designed by Drew Estate Subculture Studios. If you're not a member, download the Drew Diplomat app from the Apple Store or Google Play Store today. And we're back talking Mombacho Tierra Volcan, doing some pairings. I mean, you guys have kind of been up and down on the second pairing, so maybe it's time to move on. But I've been very happy with the Miyagikyo 15. I'm kind of sad to move on, but I'm going to do it. And here's another one that I've featured occasionally on the show. It's one of those products that kind of gets overlooked in the shelf. This is one of those ones that I find is a little dynamic. This is a Glenfarclas Cask Strength single Highland malt Scotch whiskey. You can see that big number there, 60%. It is a Hida, distilled and bottled by J&G Grant. And it is a Speyside whiskey. Glenfarclas was founded in 1836, so they do go back a little while. They were owned and are owned by J&G Grant. They use water from the Ben Rinnes Mountain, so it's a mountain stream that they get their water source from. Water is the most important thing to Scotch whiskey, of course. Their neighboring distillers are Ben Rinnes, Cragganmore, Dale Yuan. I don't know Dale Yuan. There must be a lot of local production. I've never had one of their whiskeys. But what's cool is they have a tasting center, a visitor center, and if you go and visit them, apparently they have a glorious, glorious tasting room with a remarkable range of whiskeys that they will pour for you. So it's worth a trip. The 105 cask strength is, as I said, 60%. Now, it might not be the right whiskey to pair, but I wanted to kind of push the envelope tonight. It's matured in ex-bourbon oak barrels, but then, unfortunately or fortunately, they finish it in Spanish oak, which either contained Oloroso or Fino sherry. So we'll see how much that sherry kind of fits in. Sometimes, and especially I think with this cigar, the Grande Tierra Volcan, it might be a little too spicy for the cigar, but we'll see. They say it's aged at least 8 years, although it is a no-age statement whiskey, so who knows? They say the nose is oaky, apples, pears, and dark toffee, and then the flavor notes are spiciness, oak, and sherried fruit, which sounds about right for Fino sherry. Trippy, what you got on point here for number 3?
So, like you said, I don't always go with stuff that I know is going to pair well, or that I even think is going to pair well. I want to try stuff and see how it works.
For science.
I just think that's more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
For science, exactly. So I went with something a little hot, the Willett 3-year family estate. This is bottled at 55.6% ABV. So this is what we would call a heater. So the rye, it's aged for 3 years, but it's actually a blend of two spirits that are aged for 3 years. It's a blend of their high rye mash, which is 74% rye, 11% corn, 15% malted barley, and their low rye, which is 51% rye, 34% corn, 15% malted barley. So the high rye kind of brings the spice. The low rye kind of brings the body. And I think so far it's pretty good. I believe this is from the second release that they had. It doesn't say on the bottle, but I know they've had 2 releases so far, and I got this a couple weeks ago. So I know it's probably not the first release. I'm going back over my notes here. Oh, they say it displays characteristics beyond its age, including aromas of chocolate, orange, pine cones, cinnamon spice, and whipped cream. The palate is equally enthralling, including notes of vanilla bean, rhubarb pie, citrus zest, and pineapple rind.
Come on, they're just making stuff up now.
The rich finish leaves notes of spearmint, honey, and cloves.
It sounds delightful.
Yes,
it's pretty good. I might bring a little flask of this to.
I've got a bottle of the 7-year estate, I think, something like that. It was given to us as a gift, and it is. My wife loves rye. She likes whiskey, but she's a big fan of rye, and everybody at her office knows that. So when it's like her birthday or an anniversary or something, they always bring her a bottle of rye. So we've got some really nice stuff that we've been gifted. And that was one of those bottles. It's really nice. It's really good. I'd be curious to see how the 3-year-old works. And showing characteristics beyond its age. I feel like I'm doing the same thing with the white in my beard. Like,
copy that.
You know, it's like beyond. I'm not that old. Still in my 30s. Anyway, I went in a totally different direction. And this is based on an experience that I had with Mombacho last year as part of Cigar Federation covering IPCPR when they had the 10th anniversary release and invited media. And we all sat down and paired the 10th anniversary with some Veuve Clicquot champagne.
So good.
Now, I initially was going to pair with a bottle of Corbel, and I'll tell you guys why. I had it. It was open from yesterday. I had family over. My wife used it to make cocktails, so I figured, okay, great. It's already open. It's not another expense. It's great. I'll use it. And I posted it, and Claudio freaked out. He says, dude, you can't pair with Corbel. Come on, step up your game. He was just joking. But I told my wife, and my wife was like, "Oh my God, you're bringing shame on our household by doing that." So I switched to last minute, and I'm going with a Schramsberg. I think it's Mirabelle, 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 not Mirabelle.
I would call that Mirabelle.
Mirabelle Brut Rosé, and it is it's a sparkling wine. It doesn't come from the Champagne region. It comes from Napa Valley, California. They've been around for over 50 years, and they've been committed to crafting extraordinary sparkling wines. Living and working in the Napa Valley, Diamond Mountain property, the Davies family, and the Schramsberg team have focused on creating wines that reflect the passion and experience of the people behind each bottle. And that is from Schramsberg. They make some really, really good sparkling wines. I don't think that I've ever had this one yet. It's a Brut Rosé. It runs about $30 a bottle, so it's not too bad for a sparkling, but it is quite tasty. I mean, we could go into some of it's 47% Pinot or 57% Pinot and 43% Chardonnay, but nobody really cares about all that stuff. 12.8% alcohol. There's a TA number here. The pH is 3.16. They give you a lot of information.
Wow.
Like you got to hit that
pH is important.
You got to hit that pH.
What was the pH?
Are you being serious?
Yeah.
3.16.
Ooh, girl.
Wow.
Is that good? Like, I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Pretty
I
acidic.
should. pH is important in brewing, and I use stuff to bring my pH to 5.2%, which is where I guess it's supposed to be. I don't know what that means. So I'm going to pop this because I love popping bottles, and we'll see how this pairing goes.
Yeah, I mean, three-ish pH is actually quite acidic because you think water is at 7 pH, hydrochloric acid is at 1, so that's definitely in this. So I mean, I don't know
My face off or what?
Well, I don't know if it's going to melt your face off, but I imagine it's going to be quite sharp and crisp, which is probably what you're looking for in a champagne.
Melt your teeth right out of your mouth.
Just melt them right out of your mouth live on the internets. While, yeah, that'd be a good show.
Yeah.
Trippy, while Rob's doing the pouring distributions, sharing there, how are we doing for comments, questions, feedback on Facebook and or cigarfederation.com, our home?
Jason Raybuck is he's excited that he saw that ad for DE and he got all excited that the sun-grown pigs are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Aldalamy is watching on Facebook. He says that
Casey's good times.
Yeah, he likes our approach. He says it's like a good blind date. You never know what you're going to get.
Nice.
And he's a big fan of the Weller.
Casey, you never know what you're going to get at the IPCPR, my friend. Call me.
Casey doesn't like to do interviews.
No, but we're gonna get him on camera. I think this year.
We had him on Cigar Chat.
Yeah, he was on
it was
Cigar
a fantastic. Oh, it was such an entertaining. It was such an. He had to do it from his hotel room, and he still brought his A game. It was fantastic. From the road. I mean, that's when you're dealing with a professional.
Yeah, if you don't follow him on Facebook, you should. He's a fun guy to watch.
Casey's a lot of good times. We've been doing this. I don't know, Robbie, if you've been tracking. This is way off topic now. But we've been doing this. Started by Jonathan and Alec Bradley. We've been doing this shoes of IPCPR thing. I don't know if you've been following that or not. It's total silliness, but I was actually buying two new pairs of kicks specifically for the show, and so people have been posting their kicks of what they're wearing specifically for the IPCPR, and I've gone whole hog for this IPCPR.
Oh, I got to do that because I need new shoes because I just have bad ankles and walking around that much bothers me.
Cankles?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I skateboarded. When I was like 17 or so, I broke my ankle. Dude, Bo Cankles, he was a riot.
I don't even know what that is. Is that a person?
Inside joke.
Yeah, so it's kind of an inside joke, but I'll tell the story anyway because it's great.
Fair enough.
So at last year's, is it 2016 Cigar Safari.
Yeah.
There was a guy, Mike, who came down.
Super nice guy.
He was super nice guy. We woke up the last day and he had smoked every single one of his blends that he had gotten the night before.
All 10?
All 10. And all 10 of the Hoyas.
He just raged.
Smoked 20 cigars between like 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. And we call him Bo Cankles because he was having ankle issues the whole time. So he was just like all night he was sitting there smoking cigars, soaking his feet in the pool.
Yeah, he was not having a good time.
It's tough. I mean, I've been on Cigar Safari, and it's tough to think of a better place to smoke cigars. Mm-hmm. I mean, other than Casa Favilli, which you guys have both been to Casa.
Oh yeah,
Casa Favilli is a pretty good place to smoke.
Sitting on that patio with that pool, although I don't know if I put my feet in the pool. I've heard stories, but there's kind of a good place to smoke cigars. I don't know about raging on 20 cigars in 24 hours.
I know.
It's a bit much.
God bless them, man. God bless them.
So, reining it back in.
Ever.
Bringing it back.
Well, you know, we got 5 minutes left in our Armed Forces Radio Network segment, and then we're going to talk After Dark. Oh, and Michael Harvey wants to know, Robby, when's the last time you didn't have a beard?
It was 2000. I started growing it. It was my Giants playoff beard, which that's more of a hockey thing, but I did it for baseball anyway, mainly because I was lazy, and then it just became an excuse to not shave.
Right.
2014. So it was like October, I guess.
Wow.
So the last time I was clean shaven was probably September of 2014.
Babyface.
I think the last time I was clean shaven was, I think it was 2012. 2012, I had always shaved, and like I had the little tiny goatee on the bottom, the little like the actual goatee style goatee, and I decided to try to grow it out for Halloween, and it worked, so I just left it.
Nice. So we are coming down to the last 4 minutes of our Armed Forces Radio Network segment. So we'll kind of, for those who are tuning in live, stay tuned for an After Dark segment, because I got a lot of cigar, and there's just no way that I'm wasting a Mombacho. It's just not happening.
Real quick, my sister Janelle, I think, is watching because she just chimed in and said that I should shave my beard. So
No,
Janelle, thank you.
You do you, Robby.
So I'm going to run through. So first of all, this 105 is exactly what I anticipated. It's just way too spicy and way too forward for the cigar. While the whiskey is delicious, it's just not in any way, like they're just two separate profiles, and they don't interact in any good way at all. Really, it's just like having two separate flavor combinations, and not good. Not good at all, actually. So I'm just going to whip through my three pairings here. We'll start with number one. For me, that was probably the pairing of the night. I think this squeeze was excellent. I'd probably rate that at 93, 94. I think that style of beer is a great choice, specifically the Grande. I can't speak of the other Vitolas, but that crispness, that fruity flavor does a great job of supercharging both the cigar, and the cigar does a great job of bringing out the beer. Very refreshing, very enjoyable. Trippy, how was your first pairing?
So let me talk about my last pairing just for a brief moment. It's, like you said, it's really spicy because this is a rye. Ryes are spicy. It cuts the spice completely from the cigar. You really don't get any of that pepper or baking spice, but it kind of ramps up the sweetness and the sour notes of the cigar, which I really enjoy, even though it's not the best pairing.
Interesting.
So even if the pairing's not great, you can still enjoy it. So my first pairing, the three-way IPA, I would give a 94. I think this is like the perfect beer to go with this cigar. I don't think you could find a better beer to go with this cigar because it's hoppy, but it's not overly hoppy. Even your squeeze, I don't think. I'm definitely going to bring a couple packs of these to the IPC cigar so you can
a
try
suitcase is just going to be full of booze.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
I mean, not if we drink it while we're there.
Copy
the
that.
Second one, the Akashi, just was an off pairing for me. I would give that an 82. I mean, it just, don't pair those two. They don't go together. The Willett, while it wasn't a fantastic pairing, it was really enjoyable. I would give that one an 88.
Robby, what about
you? So for me, the pairing of the night was the Big Wave Golden Ale. It's not the flashiest and sexiest of beers, but the pairing was great. It was exactly what I wanted. It had some fruity notes to it. It was a little bit dry, a little bit crisp. So it's, almost like a palate cleanser, but at the same time, it had some flavor to it. I could sit back with 3.5 of those and a Fino or two and just rage and really enjoy it. The Green Spot, like we talked about, it was great for the cigar, but it wasn't good for the whiskey. This final pairing, I really love pairing sparkling wine or champagnes with cigars. This has a little bit too much fruit to it.
Interesting.
It's got some raspberry and some strawberry in there that you get that, and it lingers just a little bit. If it was a bit more dry, I would enjoy it more, but it's still a pretty good pairing. I just like the fact that it's just a palate cleanser, and then in between you get to taste the champagne, and it's great.
Champagne is just a fantastic palate cleanser.
It's a great palate cleanser. I would probably stay away from a rosé, but I got scolded, so I had to. But it was by my wife. She was
broke out that Dom.
She was really disappointed, man. Oh, the Dom. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You got a couch I could sleep on, bro? No, but champagne, seriously, if you've never paired with champagne or a sparkling wine, do it. And that's it.
getting back to my pairings, Miyagikyo was for sure the pairing of the night for me. That was a 95, 96. And I think I want to explore Mombacho pairing more with a little bit of Japanese whiskey, try some different expressions, because this was really, really good. I mean, the Miyagikyo 15 is a great expression for Japanese whiskey, so it might be a high watermark. But I've got some Takatsuru, I've got some Takatsuru 21, I've got some pure malt. You know, we can do some pairings in IPCPR. I'm just saying. So for me, that was the high water mark, even though the squeeze was excellent. And the Glenfarclas, unfortunately, while an excellent whiskey, was a wholehearted miss. That's like an 80-81 for me. Just great whiskey, but does not at all in any way go with the cigar. So as we wrap up our Armed Forces Radio Network segment today, I want to thank all of our live listeners. Please stay tuned to our After Dark segment coming right after this. But thanks to all our Armed Forces Radio Network listeners who are out there. We know you guys are out there and ladies are out there in droves protecting our freedoms, especially just after we had the July 4th week, normally be weekend, but Independence Day, July 4th. Thanks for protecting our freedoms. Hope you had some downtime, had a chance to enjoy a delicious cigar, and have been entertained by our 58 minutes of tomfoolery. We hope you stay safe and have a great weekend. We are joined right after our After Dark segment by Cigar Chat on a special time tonight of was at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. So tune in tonight. We will not be back next week because, of course, we will be doing our live show coverage of the IPCPR. You can check that at youtube.com and cigarfederation.com. We'll have great show coverage, including interviews of Mombacho. So check it out. And as we say on Sharing Our Pairings, we do want you to drink better, but drink less. And I get a lot of cigar left. I get like half. I thought I was raging on this
I
Grande.
don't. I've been raging on this thing.
Well,
I think I might have to
you
go
had the
grab
biggest
a Porto.
Patola, John.
Yeah.
John, yeah, you
Giggity.
had the biggest. Yeah,
Giggity.
I mean, I guess it is after dark. We could go that direction, but
Gotta keep it
I
classy.
wanted to give a shout out to a young man, I believe he was in the Army, and his last name's Watts, and I can't remember his first name. And I met him when I was at a shop in oh man, what was the name of the shop? I'll have to look it up. But we were in there. I was there with Glenn, and it was either Atlanta or it was either Georgia or Alabama. Is right next to Georgia, right? It was either
Probably.
Georgia. It was right on the border there, and in Phoenix. God, what is the name of the place? Anyway, he recognized me from these shows, and he asked John. He asked about you. He asked about Logan. Tripp, he didn't ask about you.
That's right.
Harsh.
I'm new school.
Ouch.
Awkward.
It's cold.
But no, he was there in his full uniform and enjoying some cigars. He was excited to see Mombacho in that area. So I do want to give out a shout out to, and I'm not going to say what his rank was because I don't remember what it was, Mr. Watts. So I appreciate it. And I'm going to find out what cigar shop that was so I can say it here. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
So this is a really odd comment, and I don't think I've commented on this before, but I just took the secondary band off this Tierra Volcan, and I don't know what you guys are paying for bands, but there's some nice. I mean, like that's not
they
some.
fancy.
Yeah, like that is some like 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 it's embossed. Like you see, like I'm gonna hold that
Well,
up. It's
lower,
stamped.
lower,
It's stamped
lower.
on the. No, well, for
Lower.
your camera,
Yeah,
but not for the audience.
We see
I'm
a
running
different
two
camera
cameras,
than the
dog.
audience.
Oh, well, that's
Dual
not
camera
confusing at all.
technology here on cigarfederation.com.
So one thing I know, so obviously they say cigar rings on it. You probably can't read that, but you know what a cigar is like. But Claudio actually told me they were like completely decided on this kind of matte finish gold, and for some reason the Cigar Rings factory in Nicaragua only does foil gold. They do not do matte gold. If you want the matte gold like this, the powder gold, you have to order them from the DR, which is what they do. And that's a lot of work for just a band. I mean, having them shipped from out of country.
And
it goes to like, it says something about the attention to detail at Mombacho. Like everything Mombacho does.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, and I think you can say that because you've been to the factory, and you've seen the factory, and
it's oh so impressive.
Just the way that the factory looks and the way that you started this, so I'll finish it. But I've been, as part of a member of the media, I was lucky enough to visit several factories, and every factory is great. Every factory that I've been to, I should say, is every factory has their pluses and has their minuses, just like any place that you go. And the same with Casa Villa. It's going to have its pluses, it's going to have its minuses, depending on what you're looking for. But the way that just the sheer visuals of our factory, it's over 100-year-old building, completely restored. We bought it in 2012, I think.
Sounds right.
I think it's 2012. Claudio, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a beautiful factory. The thing that blew me away, and I've said this before, but I started on November 1st, and November 2nd I was in the factory, and we were having meetings and stuff, and it was noon, and the bell rings, and I'm like, what's going on? And everything stops, and everybody has lunch together. Like we feed our employees every day, and we don't charge them for it. We just feed them. We have someone there, Lizette's awesome. You guys have probably met
she is.
Lizette. Yeah. And she cooks lunch for everybody every day. And I sat down. I was having lunch with the rollers and buncheros, and we were doing our best to communicate because my Spanish isn't so good. Until I start drinking the rum, then it gets a little bit better.
Yeah,
at least I think it does.
Un poco.
In my head, it gets.
You just get a little looser with it.
Yeah, sure. The inhibitions are gone, and I'll just do my best.
Hablo de español un poco.
But it's I just feel like we do things a little bit differently. And we talk about being unique, and there's terms in this industry that get played out, tradition and all that stuff, and unique, and we're special because we do this, we do that, and every company is special in their own way. But I think that's one thing that we do. And your point about the bands really says the same thing. It was the guy from Jurassic Park who spared no expense. Maybe not the best example to use because everybody died, but
that's the thing with Mombacho. It's like that's the thing that struck me the first time and the second time I saw the factory is that there are little details that nobody thinks about that are just part of the way they do business in Mombacho. The sandpaper to sand down the bumps in the binder before they put the wrapper on. Then they have the vinegar. They kind of.
You're gonna give away any trade secrets?
The wrappers with. Hey, Claudio talked about that on Cigar.
You signed an NDA, right?
Oh, what do we got here?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
And then the stamps on the band. I
can't see it.
They're just little touches that nobody else does.
Oh, that's May 2000.
And then
May 2000. That's got to be one of the first batches of the new banding.
Actually,
I would think so. And then the last time I was in Nicaragua, we were there for Cigar Safari, and we spent an extra day in Granada. And John and Logan flew out in the morning, and I didn't fly out until like late that night, like 8 or so. And I went to that little private island that they have the Mombacho party on. And we just kind of hung out with some of the rollers and some of the bancheros. And
I was very jealous.
There aren't many people in the industry who are, factory owners and people who run the factories that fraternize with their employees. It's just a very different thing in the industry.
Claudio knows everybody's name.
Exactly. And he was like, that guy, I don't remember his name. He called him Chocolatito because it was right after the Chocolatito fight.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. But he was like, that's the guy that rolls every single Mombachito.
Yeah.
Every single one, that's the guy that rolls them. And he knows everybody and what everybody does. It's amazing.
Yeah. And, our factory is a little bit smaller than some of the large, like you compare it to Drew Estate, it's not even close.
Not even.
But it's a different word. We're different animals, right? So it maybe, and I'm not trying to take away anything from anybody, but the way that our factory runs, the way that our company runs, is something that, at least for me, is very, very appealing when it came to the decision of, do I want to move on from being in the media and join the cigar industry? And frankly, I wasn't really looking to do it unless one of a handful of companies that I would have wanted to work for, and just so happened that Mombacho was at the top of that list, which sounds like lip service because I work for them. They sign my checks, but I think if you go back and you look at some of the old videos and interviews and stuff,
you were raving over them long before you worked for them.
Yeah, it was. I mean, these are some of my favorite cigars that I've ever encountered as from being, part of the media and that kind of thing. So the way that the company is run, to me, is unique, and there's a strong appeal for me for that. So that was, and I'm glad you brought up the thing about the bands, because I mean, everybody has great bands. A lot of companies, well, I shouldn't say because some companies don't, but everybody pays attention to the details, and I don't know. I just feel like we take a slight extra step.
There's just an extra step there at every step of the way. There's an extra step of detail that's in there.
I should let you talk, because it means more coming from you than it does from me.
I mean,
exactly.
I think because we took some of our franchisees, limited number of our franchisees, down to the factory, and we took the right ones because they didn't have experience with the product. And I feel like it's one of those things I can talk about and I can talk passionately about, but they're not going to get it until they experience it firsthand. And I remember one of our franchisees walked into the humidor after doing the tour and seeing all the particulars, and he walks in the humidor and he turns around to me, he says, "Do we have these in our store?" And I go, "No." He goes, "Why not?" And I go, "I don't know. Why don't you have these in your store?" And he goes, "We need to have these in our store." I'm like, yeah, you do, because they're delicious. And now they have like 4 or 5 facings of Mombacho in the store. But like, that's one of those things where I feel like you really resonate with the brand when you see the process, when you meet the people. And I joke to them, I'm like, Claudio doesn't really even care if they rolled 6 cigars today. He'd probably be disappointed. But if those are 6 perfect cigars, I feel like he'd be satisfied as long as they're perfect 6 cigars. And that's kind of his philosophy. Like, just make them perfect, and make them perfect every time. And yeah, if you can make more than 6, that'd be great. But as long as they're perfect, we're happy.
The sentiment is correct. You might be stretching it with 6.
Yeah, 6. I feel like he'd start yelling in Italian.
But
lots of hand motions.
Yeah.
But the sentiment is correct.
Yeah.
And it's it really does feel like a family. I'm Facebook friends with a lot of the folks who work in the factory.
I mean, I'm Facebook friends with a lot of people that work in the factory.
Right? Okay, even better. You talk.
Me as well. Yeah. It's one of the few times where I get the factory invites. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'll invite, I know who you are. You're not just some random person from Esteli that's weirdly inviting me on Facebook. It's weird.
And we also have Granada going for us.
Yeah, you're the only factory in Granada.
Not taking anything away from Esteli, they're just they're different towns.
Yeah,
and they both have their pluses and minuses. They both have their charm, but there's something about Granada. I took my wife Dana down there in January for the Mombacho 11th anniversary party, which we had on that island that we were talking about, Tripp. Mm-hmm. And she keeps asking when are we going to go back, and she had a blast. And the next time you guys go, take a couple of days, take the 1.5-hour drive out to San Juan del Sur, and just refresh.
Heard the beaches are ridiculous. Yeah.
In the middle of the night, run down and jump in the water.
So
there's something about jumping in the ocean in the middle of the night that is like, it's very primal, and you come out of that so energized. It was a transcendent experience for me.
So for the record, I've blocked off a 3-week period in January for the Pure Sabor in Nicaragua. Oh, yeah. So as long as I can get the flights figured out and worked out, I fully intend, along with my boss Jeff, to be down there for the Pure Sabor in January.
Go have Pure Sabor be the beginning of your trip, and on February 3rd, you can come celebrate the 12th anniversary of Mombacho with us.
That's our goal.
Everyone's invited. Seriously, you're invited. If you're in Granada, man, you can come. Shoot me an email.
Yeah. That's what Claudio told me. It was
Absolutely.
Like anybody who's in Granada at that time is invited. It's just
an
open invitation.
When we went down in January, one of the little excursions we did was to this lake that's in an old. It's a crater. I guess it was a.
Oh yeah.
The crater lake. I don't know what it's called.
The lowest point in Central America.
What?
Not. I don't know. It used to be a volcano. Now it's a lake.
Yeah.
And there's a resort there you can stay at, and there's a little bar and restaurant down at the bottom. And we went there for the day, and the water was so warm. I was just out there in the water, playing around, having a good time. And we met a couple from. We had like 7 or 8 of us in our group, and we met a couple from Oregon. And we were all smoking cigars, and he came up. He's like, "Hey, where'd you guys get the cigars?" And so we extended him a cigar. He smoked, I think he smoked a Fino. I gave him a Fino. Really nice guy. I cannot remember his name. And he and his wife, they hung out with us that day, smoked some Mombacho, and then we said, hey, we're having this party tomorrow. You guys are welcome. And they came to our anniversary party. I thought it was really
awesome.
cool. That just happened to be there. So if you guys are in Granada, if you're ever going to go to Granada, go in January and February because it's perfect. The weather is so great. So great.
Do you know what the dates are of the Pure Sabor? Just out of curiosity.
They haven't announced them yet.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. It's probably around the same time. It's usually around the same time every year, within a week or so.
Yeah.
We pushed our anniversary party back a few days because I think we were on the 26th or the 27th this year, and next year it's February 3rd. So it's the same. I guess it's the same week, but this
year it was the last week of January. We've actually got a couple audience questions for you, Rob.
Go.
So the first one that I have to find here is, what's your favorite aspect of being involved in the industry?
You know, I've learned a lot in this 6, 7, 8 months that I've been in the industry, and I always said this when I was doing stuff on Cigar Federation and doing the shows and reviews and everything, is that the online community of cigar smokers it's a rampant community, right? Everybody they're hungry for information or news, new product and everything. That's about the 1%.
Yeah, it's a tiny sliver.
And for us, when you're doing that, when you're in that world, it feels like the entire world.
Yeah.
And then you get out and you realize that I learned two things. The industry is a lot bigger than I thought it was. It's a lot bigger as far as the scope of cigar smokers, but it's a lot smaller than I thought it was too, in the sense that the percentage of cigar smokers is tiny. So from a standpoint of, getting that information out to people and just letting them know about your brand. I mean, obviously my goal is for somebody to walk into their local B&M and ask for Mombacho.
Yeah.
But that's a tough hill to trudge up. I mean, is it, all the online stuff that we do is great. And everything that you guys do really does serve a purpose. There's a lot of people who get their information from you guys and other websites. And it's a great tool, but there's a lot of guys out there who they go into their shop and they buy their same cigar every time they come in, unless you talk them into trying something else. So it is an uphill battle. But I think my favorite part so far, which I thought was going to be my least favorite, is being on the road. I haven't done it that much.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm actually really surprised by that.
I am too. And when Claudio and I were talking about it, he's like, oh, you might be on the road 25% of the time. I was like, oh, that's not that bad. And then I started thinking, oh man, 25%, that sucks. I don't want to be on the road all the time, blah, blah, blah. But getting out there and going to all these different shops and meeting the people, the folks who work there, the guys who come in and smoke and sit down and just having that experience in more than just the 4 or 5 shops that are in my area. And I'm lucky to have 4 or 5 shops within driving distance, right? A lot of guys only have 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So to get out to those places and spend time with and smoke cigars with guys who don't always get a chance to experience something new, that's really been my favorite part so far.
Yeah, speaking of somebody who's in
it's been IPCPR.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, speaking of someone who's in the retail end of things, and I've been on the road quite a bit the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I think there's this energizing aspect to it, like when you actually get to talk to people and sort of share your passion for cigars, and they pick up on that, and you give them recommendations, and they come back and they're like, yeah, you recommended this, and maybe you don't remember them, but it's like, well, I'm glad you enjoyed the recommendation and you enjoyed it. It's very rewarding, to give good information to a cigar smoker and have them enjoy that recommendation and then branch out from that. It's very exciting. And I always tell, because Mombacho up here in Canada it's tough, right? Boutique blends, and Mombacho is absolutely everything boutique. It's tough in Canada because you've got your boutique smokers who are aware of the brand. And like you say, you've got the other 90% of the segment who are not necessarily familiar with the brand. And, like, well, how do I position this to the customer? I'm like, just have them smoke one. Just have them smoke one, and they'll be back, because the cigar will speak for itself. Like, you can tell them the story, you can tell them the background, you can tell them about the factory, you can tell them all this stuff. Just have them smoke a cigar. Trust me, they'll be back. They're not going to have a bad experience. If they enjoy cigars, they're going to enjoy the product.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I went out in my local area, and in California, we haven't in the past had, at least in Northern California, had much exposure to local shops around here. You walk in with Mombacho, and they're familiar with Tierra Volcan, and then you kind of explain to them, well, Tierra Volcan is Mombacho, and blah blah blah. I'm not a sales guy. I don't have any sales training. I don't think I'm very good at it. My goal was just to go in and get these shop owners to smoke the cigar, and you get the cigar in their hands and let them smoke it. And everybody now they're all selling Mombacho because it really is, John, like you said, the cigars speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead,
because
I'm asking a new question.
Okay, 1 second. I'm surprised that is my favorite part. Ask me again in a year. We'll follow up again a year from now. We'll see what my favorite part is.
So the next question is from Michael Harvey. He's one of our
I remember Michael,
Cigar SigFed members.
Absolutely. He's in
watches every week.
North Dakota,
somewhere in the North Midwest.
No, he's either in North Dakota or Colorado.
Colorado sounds right.
Yes, he's in Colorado.
He says he's never smoked a Mombacho. He wants to know which one it is.
Well, that has to be rectified. Yeah, I would say, Michael, well, it depends. I mean, it depends on what you like to smoke. If you like more of a full flavor, full body cigar, then you go with Liga Maestro, because it's Liga Maestro in the double Robusto, I think, is the best cigar that we make. It is, and it's damn near a Churchill, and I'm not a Churchill smoker. It's like 6 3/4 by 50. But something about the blend of Liga Maestro in that size it's the perfect expression of that blend. It's rich, it's full flavor, it's not full strength. It's a medium plus maybe, depending on what you're used to.
Yep.
But I can sit there and smoke that for 2.5 hours and think, man, I should probably fire up another one. There's something about that particular. If you want something that's got more of a kick to it and it's a bit more aggressive, try the Liga Maestro Pequeño. It's it's 4.5 by 44 or something like that.
Those are some little guy.
That cigar's got a kick to it,
Mm-hmm.
because you're taking that 2.5 hour experience and condensing it down into 45 minutes. So it's just like anything else. You boil it down, it gets thicker, right? So you're getting a lot more flavor and oomph out of that particular cigar.
Yeah.
And if you want something more on the medium side, I would go with the Tierra Volcan Corto. I think that's the one cigar. If people haven't smoked Mombacho and they want to experience the full spectrum, I would say go with the Corto, then the Fino, then the double Robusto Liga Maestro, and then the Pequeño. That gives you, just from the Mombacho blends, we're not talking about patina, just from the Mombacho blends, I think that gives you the full spectrum. And patina, that makes the story longer.
And you were right. He's in North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Boom.
Yeah, your gut was right.
Go with the gut. Now, obviously, I'm excited for, and this is not Cigar Chat, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. I'm pretty excited for some of the products that are hitting the market, the IPCPR, which we'll be talking about next week in our interviews. Some of the products I can neither confirm nor deny. I may have had an opportunity to smoke already.
Yeah.
And they good.
Some of the ones that haven't been announced yet.
Mm-hmm. So it should be a good show.
Yeah, speaking of non-disclosure, have you guys smoked the Cosecha 2012?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
John has.
Of course I have.
Oh, you have?
A couple times.
Oh, you bastard.
Yep.
So Cosecha, John, thank you for bringing that up, is a new line that we're releasing. And Cosecha in Spanish means harvest. So it's a true vintage line, akin to the vintage style of wine. Every wine has a year on it. And there are some cigars that are out there that are vintage. Some are true vintage, some aren't. But that's not my place to decide whether they are or they aren't. But ours it's a 100% true vintage. So it's Cosecha 2012 is the first one in the line. 13, 14, and 15 have already been rolled, and they will be released, every year hence. So did I use hence correctly there?
I think so.
I felt right. I hope I used it right. So this year, 2012. Every tobacco is from the 2012. Tripp, you're making me laugh.
I'm just giggling at you.
Every tobacco, it's a Nicaraguan Puro. So every tobacco from Nicaragua from a 2012 harvest. The cigars were rolled a year later, 2013, and they've been in our beautiful aging room. You guys have both been in there. They've been in the aging room, sleeping, as Claudio likes to say, for the last, they were 13, so last 4 years. So this cigar, it's 100% true vintage. It's a limited edition in the sense that there's only, I think we're only doing 5,000 of 2012. And the crop yield from each year is going to dictate how many cigars we can make. So I can't guarantee that we'll have 5,000 every year. We might have 3,000 one year. We might have 8,000 another year. It's going to depend on Mother Nature, because it's going to control that, and you can't control her. So it's a really special cigar.
Yeah. And
our 10th anniversary is a special cigar. If you guys have smoked it, I imagine you guys have.
I've only had it at the factory, but still, it was a.
That's the best place to smoke it. Yeah,
it's actually a little bit better. Did you go up on the roof while you were smoking it?
No, we were in the lounge.
But still,
it was really
John,
hot.
You smoked on the roof. Being up on the roof, forget about it. Smoking that particular cigar at the factory is even better. But what does Jose Blanco like to say? The cigar is as good as the person you're with, or whatever. Or something.
Exactly.
He says the only thing that can ruin a good cigar
smoking next to an asshole.
But the cosecha is a special cigar, and it's special in a slightly different way. I've smoked the 2012, and it is fantastic. I smoked the 2013, and it is fantastic. I haven't smoked the newer ones yet, but they still have some time to go. So, John, and so,
gotta get your weasel on, son.
Yeah, right.
That weasel game going, Rob.
Gotta get that tight weasel game.
So if you get a chance, look for that Cosecha 2012. But like I said, it's going to be limited. But every year, I mean, what's the like Las Calaveras, right? From Crowned Heads, they do a different iteration.
Different iteration every year.
So it's going to be the same kind of concept. It's a different iteration, but these are, if it's a 2012, all those tobaccos are from a 2012 harvest. They're all from Nicaragua. And moving forward, they'll all be the same way. So
and it's spectacular. I mean,
and it's a special occasion cigar. I mean, the price point is a little bit high. It's on on the higher end, I should say. It's an ultra premium cigar. I think the retail is, I think MSRP
$21.95.
$21.95. I wrote the press release, but you read it more recently than I did.
I mean, not to throw you under the bus, but it did say MSR or MRSP.
Did it really? Yeah. Oh man. You found that typo, and I'm glad
it happens.
It's not embarrassing at all. Thank you. I'm gonna turn my camera off.
I mean, you could have just just steamrolled over it.
No, hey, if you make a mistake, I gotta own it. Oh, that's my bad. Although I did have several people edit it.
It's just mashing at a keyboard. So,
I have fat fingers, so you get a lot of typos. But $21.95. So it is, like I said, it's a special occasion cigar. But it's befitting any occasion that you're going to want to try to smoke it at.
Yeah, it's spectacular. You definitely, I mean, it's one of those ones where you don't want to be that guy that waits until all the boxes are sold. Try one, then you'll buy a box. It's that good. Yep.
I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rob is here, but he doesn't really have to talk. We're going to do all the Mombacho
We'll do all the Mombacho advertising.
No problem. I'll just be quiet.
Yep. Now, I am going to have to wrap up pretty quick here because we are doing a doubleheader tonight. We're doing Cigar Chat right after, and I got to get my eat on. So, Robby, maybe tell everybody, first of all, where they can find you on social media and where they can find more information about Mombacho cigars.
Absolutely. And again, thanks for having me on, guys. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I feel like we're just hanging out, except for this fly that's buzzing. And I know that there's other people tuning in, so thank you for tuning in. You can find us at mombachocigars.com. It's MOMBACHO, just like the volcano in Granada. mombachocigars.com. And we're at Mombacho Cigars pretty much everywhere. And any place that you send a message to, I'll respond to it. If you send the message in Spanish or Italian, Claudio's probably going to respond. So maybe use a Google Translate. You'll get a better answer than you would from me, maybe. You can find me at Robby Raz, if that matters, but pretty much anywhere. But yeah. That's it. mombachocigars.com.
Thanks, Robby. We'll be, of course, covering Mombacho at the IPCPR next week. Trippy and I will be down there working our buns off, grinding out for those great media coverage. We want to continue our top-in-class IPCPR coverage, so make sure to check that out at cigarfederation.com and youtube.com. And as we say on sharing our pairings, we do want you to drink better, but we want you to drink less.